Today our guest Bill Syrcle is going to turn the table and put me in the hot seat. Hi, I'm Norman A. Hood, financial advisor and host of the Exit Plan Show. I interview America's top advisors to help business owners like you enjoy more freedom, grow their companies faster, and retire someday on their own terms. But today, the advisor interviews me. Bill is with Sinago & McComb, has a master's degree in clinical psychology. He's a licensed clinical counselor and a family business consultant. And I don't know what to expect next, so go ahead, Bill.
So what is this like, Norm? Have the tables turned on you?
It's a little different, but I'm used to people asking me questions. So.
Okay. Well, I promise not to be too hard on you.
Okay, thanks.
A lot of exit planning is about the numbers, and it's
Right.
black and white, and people can put that down on paper. It's also about people. And in our positions, people share a lot of very personal information with us.
Right.
And it can be comforting for them to know a little more about us personally. So can you help us with that? Can you tell us a little bit about Norm Hood?
Okay.
And what your career's been like up to this point?
Okay. Well, I was born and raised on a family farm, not too far from where I live now. I got into the insurance business after I left the farm, got married, and kind of fell into the insurance business because I was unemployed. I just knew I wanted to do something else, and so I ended up there. Pretty early on, I worked with farmers because it was a natural market. I knew a lot of farmers, so that was easy to work with. And since then, I've later branched out into all types of businesses. But probably my favorite group of customers, small business owners, are farmers, because of the family connection and because of my connection and the memories I have of working on the farm with my dad and my brother.
So if you enjoyed the farm so much, what made you want to leave? And I understand how you got into insurance, kind of fell into it, but what made you get away from the farm?
If I had to say one thing, I'd say lack of an exit plan. My dad was a fourth-generation farmer. My great-great-grandfather came here from Scotland, started a blacksmith shop, acquired a lot of farmland, passed that on to his son, my grandfather. This was during the Depression. He lost a lot of very valuable farmland during the Depression, passed on to my grandfather, who, after seeing what happened during the Depression, was a lot more cautious than the previous two generations. My grandfather became ill at a very young age. My dad started farming full-time after his sophomore year of high school. He quit high school to farm. He still maintained that cautious mentality because of their background, and it's understandable. I worked on the farm for, from the time I was old enough to get on a tractor. And I spent most of my time, when I was cultivating half-mile rows, I spent most of my time thinking about other things I wanted to do. Not that I didn't like farming, but I didn't like the monotony of the routine task. I probably would have liked the management aspect, but that wasn't going to happen. And for some other reasons, my dad, when my grandfather passed away, actually my dad had a sister, and there was really no exit plan. So even though my dad had worked on the farm for a good number of years, when my grandfather and my grandmother passed away, it was willed equally to my dad, my aunt. Fortunately, they had a great relationship. They thought a lot of each other. There weren't any personality issues. There weren't any hard feelings over any of it. But I'd say if my dad had been full owner, things might have been done differently. I don't know that we'd been happier, or maybe even more successfully, but things would have probably been done differently. I just wasn't the type probably to be on a tractor.
I think you may have already started answering my next question. So if you want to elaborate more, that's fine. If you want to just kind of reiterate, however, what made you start and interested in the exit planning business? How did you make this shift?
Well, like I said, I worked with business owners for about 40 years. And I started out when I was in my 20s. A lot of my customers were in my 20s because how many 60-year-old successful business people want to take advice from a 20-year-old that just got out of college and started a new career? So I worked with a lot of, well, in the process of that, I met some of their parents, and also over the 40 years, they've gotten older like I have. So I'm 60 now, and a lot of my clients are 60, and so I've kind of grown with them. In the beginning, they weren't concerned about exit planning. They were concerned about building a business. But now they are concerned. So they come to me and say, hey, we're thinking about, selling the business or bringing the younger generation. What do you think about it? And that got me really interested in exit planning. Plus, actually, you and I had a conversation about it. You became interested in it before I did. And we were talking one day.
A couple years ago, I think, we started that conversation.
So that's, those two things got me thinking about and interested in it. And I've, gone into it pretty much full time now.
And I know that part of your emphasis is with the family farms. What is it you enjoy so much about working with them now, with the farmers?
Well, I know farmers. I grew up on a farm. I know their personalities. I know the struggles they have. And I kind of like a challenge. And I think working with a farming family in terms of versus other businesses, I think that's more challenging. I think there are a lot of things that come up in a farming operation that may not come up.
Such as?
Farming entities are more capital intensive. Then when you look at the value of a farm, it's, most of the assets are hard assets or on paper. When you look at a typical, most other businesses, it's based on cash flow. They may not have very many assets. Their assets may be their key employees and their cash flow, and they usually sell as a multiple of cash flow. But it's possible for a business to not really have too many hard assets, but still have a very successful and valuable business. Whereas a farm, so much of the money has to go back into the farming operation that farmers typically live below their means. Because they have to, because all the money has to get plowed back in the farm. And that's a challenge. It's a big challenge to manage cash flow, to have liquidity to bring the next generation in, because there really isn't any liquidity. And so I like that. I've always said there's more than one way to skin a cat. I like to find the best way. And with farming, that's a challenge. It's easier in other businesses.
So you really like taking on challenges.
I enjoy that. Yes, I do.
So there's this farm operation, and it's a big challenge. What's your role in the exit plan of that? What part do you play?
Back in the 90s, I was very active as a certified financial planner. I still practice all the disciplines of it. I don't hold the designation any longer, although I'm considering getting it back. But one of the things I learned is, and exit planner is about the same. An exit planner is kind of like an orchestra leader. They don't play every instrument well, but they know how they should all sound together, and that's what the exit planner does. It's a multidisciplined approach, and you need to involve an attorney who's a specialist in an area, an accountant, a family business consultant like you, a valuation expert. And so what the exit planner does is help assemble a team, because we're trained in all those disciplines. We're just not experts. So we bring the people together, and then we work with the client to establish objectives, and we set deadlines, and we oversee the process, and we bring everybody to the table, because it's not something, I couldn't do this on my own. If I did, they'd get a pretty poor exit plan, because when it comes to the legal aspects, I'd fall short. I'm not an expert. I'm not an accounting expert, not a tax expert. We work with farmers, and Daryl Dunneman's been on our show before. He's an ag tax expert. So when it comes to that, I have to bring somebody in like that. But somebody kind of has to oversee the process. Otherwise, you've got 7 people pulling different directions, and the client gets confused. But each individual on the teams is really an expert, and I don't try to get involved in their part of it. I just try to keep everybody on the same page and moving forward.
With so many people involved with this, how does it get started? So how does this whole thing get initiated?
Usually a business owner, a farmer, approaches someone they have a lot of trust in. And in my experience, it's usually the accountant or the attorney, because they spend most of their time with them, and probably more so the accountant, because that's an ongoing, continuous relationship. So that's how they usually get started. in clients that I have that have been existing clients for a long time, a lot of times it starts with me. They'll say, okay, well, what do you think about this? And then I talk to them, and we get other people involved. We meet with their accountant, we meet with their attorney. Sometimes when they need specialized assistance, we bring others in to help.
Okay. Thank you, Norm, for this opportunity to turn the tables on you. Do you have any final remarks for us today?
Not really. I think you pretty much ask all the questions that people out there would ask. And if anyone has any additional information, they can visit our website and look at the comments, look at the show notes. If you think Bill has pretty good interview skills and you'd like to talk to him about your farming operation, about working out some of the issues you have with developing an exit plan, the personal issues, I think he'd be a good one to call, and you can find his information in the show notes. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you next time.